morning. It is Hump Day Wednesday. I believe this is March 4th. And we're going into another little busy spot at the gym for various reasons. This weekend we have a few people lifting at the, and I don't know what the name of it is called, but Nashville Weightlifting Club is hosting an Olympic weightlifting meet. And Missy, my significant other, and Derek will be competing. A friend of ours, Terry, who has visited a few times, competed the last meet that they had, will be competing also. So it'll be a fun yet very busy day. Well, the following weekend is the USA Powerlifting Tennessee State meet, and Amy will be lifting. This will be her first meet with us. She competed at the same USPA meet that Melissa did back in January. And so it'll be kind of a neat thing for her. She's going from USPA, where she was wrapping for the squat, to going to knee sleeves only, and not using a deadlift bar, that sort of thing. So there's some changes, and we have made several changes. So change in coach, change in gym, change in philosophy, and change in form, and those types of things. So it'll be really interesting to see where she lands. We feel really strong, both her and I, about the game plan. Derek will also be lifting in this meet, so it's kind of a back-to-back thing. And while he's not the first in the gym to do it, this is the first for him, and that's really exciting because he works really hard with his group of folks. And what better way to motivate your client base and your team base than by example. And so I'm excited to see the results. He has actually done very, very well, not only with lifting but training the two events simultaneously. We do a bit of a hybrid routine with him. So the next couple weeks are that, and we start getting into the final weeks of preparation for Ahmed, Deanna, and myself for Equip Nationals, which is early May, and then I leave soon thereafter for Japan for IPF Bench Worlds. What I wanted to talk to you today about is kind of like, without it sounding too cheesy, is knowing what the monster is, and that monster is not really a monster. And let me explain that. I come from an era where many of us became lifters, not only as an athletic outlet, because our days as being wrestlers, football players, whatever the case may be, were behind us. And powerlifting continued to give us that athletic outlet and competition, and justifies the training that we do. And for me, it was also very therapeutic. To make an extremely long story short, I have a few anger issues, and those that have known me for a while clearly understand that. And it's one of those things that gives me really good tempo and focus to my daily life, and it allows me to channel that anger into intensity. Now, a lot of people get intensity and anger confused. I'll give you an example. Early on, when Jennifer started training with us, one of the things that she said to me that we really laugh about now, she goes, "I know you're not angry, it just seems like you are." So that's the thing. Now that doesn't mean that I don't get out of bounds from time to time. I certainly do. But for the things that I've done, what worked for me, what allowed me to get into the mind frame, that I needed to be in, the mindset to do the things that I did, is it required a little bit of darkness, so to speak, a little bit of anger, and that really helped me channel my intensity and allowed me to do things that I never dreamed when I started doing this, being able to do. Now, why is this important? Well, I have really, and again, the people that have known me for more than 10 years will attest to this, I've really tried to pull a lot of that back. The sport, the gym, all in general have changed really dramatically. And so, we've gone away from where a lot of people are using equipment. Back in the days of my best lifting, I still did raw and single ply lifting, but a majority of what I did and what my training was all based on was multiply lifting and lifting the absolute most weight that I possibly could. And I fortunately, I was able to, the big hallmark of my career is squatting over 1,000 pounds. And there's still, you start looking at the percentage of people that have actually squatted 1,000 pounds in competition. It's a very small group of people. By the same token, I always keep that in perspective. You see people that are famous athletes and they get a lot of free stuff and all this other kind of thing. Yeah, I did. I squatted 1,040 pounds in competition. Now I want to put that in perspective. We have a chain of convenience stores called Mapco here, and they sell a cappuccino that I have called Mappuccino. And I will occasionally, I haven't done this in several years, but I have in the past, I have drank my share of that Mappuccino. The guy behind the counter does not give a shit about my 1040 squat, and he wants full price. Not only is he not going to give it to me, I ain't even going to get a discount. So, the importance of all that really comes down to me, the people in the gym that helped me, achieve that, the team, and the people in the sport. And that's really it. But I did do it. And like I said, for me to do some of the things I've done, I have to kind of go to a dark place. And that's not always pleasant for other people. And so sometimes I have to apologize, but as opposed to being apologetic for who we are, and I didn't say that gives me free rein to be an asshole. If I'm an asshole, and this morning, some of the after effects of what I do sometimes is I'm a little short with my temperament and a little quick with my tongue. And I have an opinion, and that sometimes, does not bode well. It mixes very well and becomes very fluid. And you can see where that can be a problem. But as opposed to apologizing for being who you are and the type of competitor that you are, I think it's something that needs to be discussed where, not every, I tell you what, someone like Jennifer, who's very cerebral, and she may say otherwise, Jennifer's really smart, and she's also extremely focused and doesn't require, as a matter of fact, I think it would probably throw her off her game to have a lot of outer stimulus, so to speak, where I respond really well to that. I like the whole animal gang, everybody screaming and slapping the shit out of each other. Probably hitting me is not really a great idea, but people do it, and I really feed off of that energy. That's really good for me. So what I've learned, though, is that for me to do some of the bigger lifts that I've done, I have to kind of go dark. And before most competitions, I am a pretty angry dude, for lack of a better term. I'm pretty punchy, and I'm not in a good mood until once we start warming up, then usually I'm fine. But usually before that, the day of the meet, I'm pretty pissy. And that's gotten better as I've gotten older, but probably when I did the Swole Mates, I was fairly okay. I was pretty ill that morning, but that's just where I have to go. And so, again, the whole moral of the story is that everybody has their methods of what they do and how they get to their spot. And I think we as coaches, and especially even more so, it's one thing for a coach to understand, especially when that coach has a good grasp and a good relationship with the athlete, which I think is key and vital to being successful. But you have to understand that when someone's training really heavy or they're competing, that moment is about them. It's not about you. And so if they're pissy, generally how it fleshes out at the end is they'll come back and go, hey, I appreciate you letting me do what I needed to do to get my head right and get where I needed to be. I've seen people cry, and then come back and apologize for crying, and I don't think that apology is necessary. It's great to acknowledge it, but it's like, I don't want people to be sorry for who they are, and understand that when we're in the field of play and competition, man, all bets are off. You got to be able to be who you are to perform at your best, and anything less is going to inhibit that. So, we were talking about it this morning in the gym. I'm a pretty intense guy, and I can go from zero to pretty deep, pretty quick. But it's not personal. It's not directed at anybody. It's just what I have to do. And last night I squat, for me at this point in my career, squatted pretty heavy. I've really struggled with some of the tighter equipment, even though it's single ply, and we've honestly not had wraps on my knees very much. And so, that is creating a few challenges. And I was pretty ornery. I didn't feel good. I was tired. I don't like training in the evening, but it's what I have to do. And when you get up at 4 o'clock and you coach people, and then you go to work all day, and it's been a pain in the ass day, and then you come home and you're already behind because of traffic, it just, man, I was not in a good, and I didn't feel good on top of it. And here I have to perform. We're starting to flesh out and sort out where what my attempts are going to be. And I want to be on point, and it pisses me off if I'm not. And I take this shit personally, even if it's a detriment. I'm just telling you, I take this shit personally enough that the bottom part of my house is a gym. And, we're in the midst of doing an addition, and, there's some pressures with that, and anxiety and stress, and, I'm keenly aware intellectually that a lot of that is self-induced. I will tell you, emotionally, I really don't give a fuck about my intellectual side. I feel how I feel. And, so imagine living with that shit every day. So, again, this is long-winded, but there are people out there, they got to yell. They need to slap themselves in the face. And I've coached people to go, hey, a certain amount of that is really just burning energy. It's not really doing anything for you. But, if that person believes in it, and that's what helps them get where they need to be, then we need to let them be that and move on. And instead of judging, we need to support them and help them get where they need to be. And it's the same thing for me. I require a certain amount of intensity, and you got to understand that it's not personal, that once it's done and I start feeling normal again, I'm going to be fine. That's not always easy for other people to understand or to see, but it is an explanation. So for some of you, especially when it's significant others, I mean, I don't want you to be like, oh, poor Melissa. Melissa's an athlete, and she does what she needs to do as well to create, whatever intensity she needs on competition day. And it means a lot to her. I mean, it means a whole lot to her. I mean, she's come to me, when she's been tearful and be apologetic, and it's like, look, if tears is what it requires, then so be it, as long as it's not driving the bus. And that's the thing that I have to be careful of with that intensity, that I don't let it get out of control. Now, sometimes it does. Last night I threw my belt. It happens from time to time. But it all turned out okay, and I got better as I went, and I kind of simmered my shit down. And Melissa and Ahmed especially really, took their time with handling me, and allowed me to just be a pissant for a little bit while I got to my spot. So hopefully that helps you understand, that not every monster is actually a monster, and there's a method to the madness, and everybody has their way of doing things and getting to where they need to be to train heavy and to, get in that mindset and spot that they need to compete. And I certainly know that that's when I'm at my best. And that once the dust settles, I'll go back to being lovable Wade. So, so hopefully this is enlightening and you find it interesting. And I'd love your comments and questions. And thanks for listening.